Saddle up your horses.
Patter. Let's get at her. It is another episode of the Mainly Broncos podcast. Reminder to everybody to hit that subscribe button for the MHRT Network page. We are pushing to 2,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. And also, we created a YouTube channel for the Mainly Broncos podcast. So hit the subscribe button for Mainly Broncos on the YouTube channel. We are actually currently going live on there as well. So it's up to you. This is if you feel like you want to go live on the Mainly Broncos channel to watch us, or if you want to go on MHRT, that's entirely up to you. Thank you guys so much for hopping on. Obviously, make sure you follow the gents that are over here on the screen, that being Brandon Miller, PO, and of course, Jordan T. Lopez, or Jordan Lopez, the non-ball knower of the group, if you will, when it comes to Pat Bryant. Thank you guys so much for hopping in. We have a great show lined up for you guys here tonight. So thank you guys. We have officially hit, we have officially hit the part of the stage where the Broncos got their first club dub of the season unofficially. And they walloped the 49ers. And yet, true to the fandom that is the Broncos fans, or I should just say fans in general, we are overreacting. So we're going to try and calm everybody and hopefully bring people a sense of peace and knowledge of ball knowers. That is Brandon, Jordan, and I. And of course, the ball knowers, of course, that is in the chat, which is, Victory Lap. I see Nick in here, and Andy, the ever so famous Andy, at Andy NFL on Twitter. How are you guys doing? You guys doing okay?
Doing well. I was mistakenly fooled into believing that I was about to play 9 holes of golf before I got onto this podcast, because a buddy of mine texted me 5 hours ago, and it was like, hey, we have or like 6 hours ago, it's like, we have a tee time at 3:50. You in? I was like, man, I can't play L18, but I can play 9 because I have to come back and do this. I leave work early, like I'm 10 minutes early. I'm driving over, and I'm texting him like, yeah, I think I'm going to get there right when the tee time starts. He's like, man, I'm so sorry. It's Sunday. Turn around, go home. And I was so upset because I was like really excited to play some golf today, but apparently I'm golfing on Sunday instead.
Man, over here, I'm doing all right. I might have some things lining up with football coming up pretty soon. I might be doing a few articles throughout the whole season. So
for UM,
not for UM, about UM, but it is a very popular website that covers UM football. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully that gets finalized pretty soon. And then obviously just my Broncos stuff, and man, after that first preseason game, everybody's writing a, let's just say, okay to good vibe. And then a practice happens on a random Tuesday, and God forbid a second-year quarterback going up against the best defense in the league struggles just a little bit. And we are talking about Arch Manning in next year's draft. I mean, what a world.
Or quarterbacks in the next 2 years, if you will.
Yeah.
But the Broncos, they got the dub. Why don't we just go ahead and just dive into this, because there's just going to be a lot to break down with this game against the 49ers. The Broncos won. They scored 30 unanswered points against the 49ers to beat them 30-9. So the 49ers were up 9-0, and then the Broncos, true to form of maybe showing their depth a little bit more, really showed their depth, and they played exceptionally well. and they really became probably everything that the hype surrounded them to be in terms of a complete team, and that would be scoring 30 unanswered points, and then the game wrapped with a 30-9 victory. And the first team offense didn't exactly go well per se. I mean, the last drive they were able to put forth a field goal, put forth some points up on the board. Bit of an up and down game for Bo Nix. There was some good, there was some really bad, but also there was some middle in between. There was a throw to Cortland Sutton that I guarantee you he probably makes 100% of the time, as far as not just the catch, but the throw. But I think that if you are probably leaning at these, if we're going to start from there in the first team offense, you really don't need to look no further than probably the biggest takeaway that has been basically the biggest takeaway for this team since day one of OTAs, and that is Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin, Brandon, we'll start with you. He looks like a completely different beast. I mean, I saw it. I saw it at camp. The confidence just seems better. The size difference seems better. The hands certainly seem better. Making tough catches across the middle pretty clearly. Just do some quick little history lesson here. That same play was done in the Buffalo Bills playoff game, and Troy Franklin dropped it. That 4th and 5 that they did in that preseason, Troy Franklin reached up and grabbed it in the middle part of the field. So, Brandon, like your takeaways for Franklin in that preseason game.
I mean, yeah, Troy Franklin, like throughout this entire camp, just seemed to be just kind of. I was not expecting him to be
that good,
the camp darling, if you will, this year. Like of the camp darlings that you kind of expect, I figured it would maybe be like RJ Harvey. I mean, depending on like some of the early stuff you've heard about Pat Bryant, maybe Pat Bryant. One of the rookies coming out, maybe even one of the undrafted rookies. Like there was some good stuff about Jerjuan Newton, another undrafted wide receiver. Did not expect we were all hoping. We were just like saying, hey, let's see improvement from Troy Franklin. Like just get better. Just show that you are, willing to work on the concentration drops, willing to work on your route tree, and just kind of get better as a wide receiver in the NFL. But I don't think anyone expected like this much of a jump for him, and that was just kind of showcased even more during the preseason game. Like absolutely correct. He's not going to make that catch, that 4th down conversion catch. He's not making that last year. That just wasn't in his arsenal of things he was able to do. Yeah, Josh, that's a really good point too. But yeah, I mean that's just something that I think again is really, really, really nice to see, especially when you're looking at like this wide receiver room that's a little bit not necessarily questionable, but like you have Cortland Sutton who got his deal, good for him. But then you get into like the rest of the depth chart and you look at the rest of the room and it's kind of like, who steps up, who's the wide receiver 2, who else is like able to make a difference and an impact as a weapon skill position player on this team. And it's kind of like a toss up. It's like, maybe you kind of assume it's Devon Vele, who, has been pretty consistent. There's a reason they take Pat Bryant, but Troy Franklin definitely like deserves all the kudos right now. He's put in the work. Like it's clearly obvious that he's put in the work. He already had that, pre-existing connection with Bo, and that just seems to have gotten stronger. And now he's just more of a versatile and dependable weapon. I'm so excited to see Troy Franklin more. Like, the more Troy Franklin that we see, and it sounds like he's also kind of been one of the more consistent, like deep, like speed option guys too. And the other thing I noticed as well, like we'll probably talk about it, but just as long as we're in the wide receiver room in general, Troy Franklin looked better, and Marvin Mims' role just looked different than what we saw last year as well. And I'm excited about both of those guys.
Yeah, I don't know if that was
killed it. Like
I don't know if that was like a certain idea in terms of Mims, but that was very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know like what they were trying. Maybe they were just like doing some vanilla stuff. Maybe they were trying like some new stuff out. And I can't take away like this is going to be exactly the role for this player off of one preseason game. But he did seem like he was more of a weapon in the passing game besides just being a gadget player or just a deep threat. He had some more expanded route tree than I think you saw from him last year. So both of those guys I was really excited about. But yeah, Troy Franklin, like just from everything you heard about him in camp, I was really excited to see him play against the Niners. And he, I mean, in the limited time we had him, he definitely didn't disappoint. And yeah, I mean, did the first team offense look great? No. Did the first team defense look great? Besides Nick Bonito, who looked like an all-pro? Not necessarily, but like again, it's a preseason. Like I'm not going to take too much out of this. I'm not going to read into it that much. Right. But from what you are able to take away from it, like yeah, I think Troy Franklin for sure was like the biggest. Overall, I would say like, I mean, I wouldn't say winner, but like the biggest head turner of the offseason for me between training camp and that one preseason game.
Yeah, I mean, aside from Benito wrecking, or the defense in general wrecking that last possession, the first team offense was pretty rough, and defense was pretty rough. What about you, Jordan? You are numero uno, or at least tops of the list, allegedly, according to you, of the Troy Franklin fan club. Did that do a lot to impress you?
It did. Even though it was limited action, just hearing all the things that we've heard in camp and then in the joint practice that they had, to see it in limited snaps, you can tell that he's just different. He moves different. You can even just see the way he looks physically. He did put on more weight, and you can physically tell. There was one route he had in the second quarter that I know people clipped it. The ball wasn't thrown at him at all, but like seeing him run that route,
yeah,
was impressive, because last year he wouldn't have ran that route whatsoever. That wasn't even his route treat, if I'm being quite honest. But just to see that, and I think we are going to see a little bit more of him in the second preseason game. But what's more important is that he's doing it in practice and in joint practices, because joint practice is where you get the most work. You get more work out of joint practice than you do in a preseason game. And what we got out of that joint practice was Troy Franklin again balling out, and man, you can tell I'm excited for Troy Franklin. I know there's been speculation on like the true wide receiver 2 of the room. I know Marvin Mims is theoretically that, but I'm talking about more of like an outside guy as a wide receiver 2 guy, and it's looking to be Troy. I know there's been things said about Devon Vele prior, but his situation right now is a little murky. It's still a little murky, and still a little suspicious that, and it's not being talked about. But right now, it has to be Troy Franklin.
Let's talk about probably the biggest takeaways, whether it have been positive, whether it been negative. How much stock do we put in to the idea that Bo or just the offense played pretty rough, right? Because I think that to layer it all, like there's a lot to unpack with the whole 49ers and Broncos preseason game. There is no love lost. We need to preface this. There is no love lost when it comes to the 49ers and the Denver Broncos. There is no love lost when it comes, they respect each other, but from the surface of Kyle Shanahan and Vance Joseph, there is no love lost. There is no love lost when it comes to Robert Saleh, who Sean Payton has publicly, gone after, if you will, during the whole Aaron Rodgers, New York Jets saga. So there is no love lost there. And I think it's fair to say, and frankly, I think even Lombardi said this today or yesterday, where he said that, the 49ers called a regular season game plan, where they had Bo in hell for all of those possessions. So yeah, the first team and so the first team, like Bo, and the offense didn't play well. The offensive line didn't play great, but it's important to remember that you do not often see the kitchen sink be thrown at you in week 1 of the preseason.
I mean, yeah, like I'm not going to read too much into it after one preseason game. Like, I think that's just ridiculous. are there people out there that are like starving for content and something to talk about in the last dregs of the off season? Sure. And like, that's going to happen. But yeah, it's a single preseason game where they played
The first, right?
I don't even know, like definitely not, probably things they just like wanted to work on in live game setting. These might not be the plays we're going to be trying to run in like the regular season. I'm not saying they're doing completely new things, but it's a nice, like, it's a meaningless game. Like, you can use it for anything. You can use it for development. You can use it to try things you are wanting to work on. You can use it for things you're still trying to install. You can use it for like, just, I don't know, whatever you are like trying to get some more live reps at, that you are trying to decide, like, do we want to call this in an actual game? Do we want to run this? Like, I'm not going to read into it. I mean, you see teams all the time that the first couple weeks of the regular season, they don't look good. And I'm looking at you, Cincinnati. Specific. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, like, yeah, one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, the quarterback.
Why do you think
they just don't look good at all in the first season?
Why do you think Burrow's playing in the preseason?
I mean, it could be it. Like,
yeah,
you get the wrinkles out now. You're not going to look the best in preseason. Like, there's still going to be rust. Yeah, you've been practicing, but it's not live game reps, right? That's going to be different. I'm not going to read into it at all. Like, there's going to be some flashes. Like, I'm going to look at, like, how does RJ Harvey look in general, right? Like, what does Troy Franklin look like? But I'm not trying to draw any conclusions. Like, give me the first couple weeks in September, like, of the season in September. Like, that's when you're going to start to actually be able to dive into it. And yeah, was it the best? No. But if they connected to, if Bo and Cortland connected on that, like over the shoulder pass early in the game, are we talking about probably something entirely different? Like, are we having a different conversation if he just catches that pass? Likely, right? So, I mean, it's fun to see some things, and there's like some things you can take away from it, just in terms of like, again, how does RJ Harvey look? Like, that was the biggest thing for me. I was really watching, and like, obviously Troy Franklin, just like little things. But
the depth,
the offense as a whole, yeah, like, it's preseason.
Yeah, Jordan,
it's basically glorified practice. It's televised practice.
We're talking about practice, not a game. We talking about practice. Jordan, I have to give you props, because you're the one that first said it, in a sense, because as far as how I saw it, and you said that the biggest testament to depth, or possibly a complete team, is that depth. And for them to put up 30 points, for as bad as even that first team looked on the field, like, that was really impressive. Because I think that when you correlate it even to last year, like, the Broncos were putting up 20 plus points per game because of the coaching that was taking place. Now you add the depth to this coaching, and basically the official second year into the system for Sean Payton. I mean, he had the first year with Russell Wilson, but this is basically his second year of full continuity. Frankly, and with 86% of continuity for this team, that is about what you would expect, or what you would want to expect for a team with that much, that has been staying on, if you will.
Yeah, I just like we're gonna, like, we'll be having a totally different conversation if, like, for example, because it just stands out in my mind, if Cortland Sutton doesn't drop that catch down the sideline where Bo perfectly placed it on a slot fade, and the drive continues, and we're looking really good, and the momentum's there, and like, everything's going for us, we could be having a totally different conversation. Because that'll be their only drive of the night, and then that's it. But since there was that drop, and then it kind of halted since then, now we're talking about, is there to worry about the off and stuff like that? Like, listen, and we've talked about it. The Niners dialing up nickel blitzes in preseason week 1 is absolutely insane. I know back in the day it was kind of like an unwritten rule where, like,
It is.
And you see it a little bit more now in the preseason. I wonder if coaches do talk about it beforehand. It looked like the Broncos were completely off. Like they did not know that was coming at all.
Yeah. Honestly, the Broncos with Vance did that last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Something was a little fishy. Like I'm glad both threw that ball away and got a safety instead of getting rocked, like how Anthony Richardson got rocked. Then we'll be having a totally different conversation. So yeah, I can get away with all the overreactions that we saw from the first team. They're going to be completely fine. What we just needed to look out for was how did RJ Harvey look? He looked fast. He looked explosive. That's all I cared about. Even though we didn't see Evan Ingram more than we probably wanted to, you could just tell him being out on the field, he's going to carve up a role in this offense, and he's going to be one of the better playmakers on the offense. And the roles within the receivers have changed a bit, which is exciting for me. So I am not worried at all with the offense at all.
Yeah. So let's dive into our takeaways, whether that be positive or negative. We talked about Troy Franklin, and we briefly touched on his name, but it's really hard to ignore. This is like potentially one of the biggest takeaways, and it's not a good thing for that particular player. But Devon Vele, his situation is so murky right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's easy to say he's on the team, but I think just the way that things have been shaping up with specific guys like Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin specifically, because like there were times on the field where, and maybe it was preseason, maybe, it's what we were talking about earlier, they were just trying to work some different situations, work some different playbooks, if you will, plays. But for what we were able to see, Troy Franklin was operating in the slot. That was a big part of Devon Vele, right? Like that was a big part of Vele's game, was in the slot. And you add a bigger body, a younger body, into that room where he's being force-fed. It begs the question of Troy Franklin is not necessarily wide receiver 4 on this team if that's the way that things have been operated in that preseason game. And Devon Vele is not possibly wide receiver 2. That has been some of the conversation in training camp for, frankly, even since last year. Now, granted, Vele had a great start of the year last year, got banged up, and he is banged up now. He's got a bit of a knee problem. It's been pretty undisclosed to a certain degree. So, Brandon, like this whole situation, I don't want to talk too much, obviously, Franklin, because we just talked him up, but it's just like it's hard to talk about one without the other in that sense, because Vele's situation is just so murky right now.
I mean, I think that's definitely why you are more excited to see guys like Troy Franklin stepping up, because like Devon Vele, you would have like going into really the offseason, you would kind of assume is the de facto number 2 wide receiver. And like, yeah, he is unfortunately nursing an injury, and that just sucks. Like, I think that might be why you maybe see him not played as much in the preseason, is like he's still trying to kind of come back from that. But it's not great. Like one of the, you seemingly like have one wide receiver step up and potentially like carve out a role for himself and be more of a dependable weapon. And then the guy who you thought was already a dependable weapon kind of like fades down a little bit and maybe is more of a concern there. And like, I think a lot of it again is the injury, but I think again, I would be way more freaked out about this if Troy Franklin hasn't been showing out so much. Yeah. But it's definitely a situation to monitor, and hopefully, like if they have to put him on more of like a pitch count and don't play him as much in the preseason, or maybe even rest him a little bit in like the first couple of weeks, so he can have him longer down the stretch. I think that's going to be probably the best way to play it. But hopefully, Devon Vele gets healthy, because I think we're going to need him. But I am happy to hear and see again Troy Franklin ball out. From what little we saw of Pat Bryant, we heard about him as well in camp. Sounds like he seems at the very least like an interesting player to watch. Jordan, I promise I'm not trying to guess him up too much here, but I just think, Devon Vele being injured is not great. Like, I would be way more worried about it if we needed him to be the wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3.
Right.
Thankfully, that's looking like that's not going to be the case. But definitely, like, the sooner we can get it back out there, we're still gonna need him. It's just not as urgent, and I think he's gonna have a little bit of time to rest and recover more, and like we don't have to put everything on his plate because of some of the younger guys, which is nice.
Well, and I think that we're having this conversation after the first preseason game. So and look,
that's early for sure.
And so like I understand probably what people are saying, like, maybe let's kind of hold off on some of those reservations. We're just talking about it. Like I just think that's a bit interesting as far as a takeaway. I think that if the same thing, and we'll talk about the other position here as another takeaway, but if we're having this conversation after the second preseason game, which is like ideally when that's when you're going to see a fair amount of the starters play. And that's obviously not just the quarterback side of things, but like that's wide receiver, running back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, so if we're having that same conversation about Vele after this game, it would be cause for concern. Again, it's not a matter of like him being on the roster. Like he'll be on the roster. It's just that overall pecking order of how things have been shaping up with that.
I don't disagree, but I will say, like, I'm not going to be concerned if we don't see him much because of the injury, and I'd rather he be trying to heal up. That's all I'm going to mention about that. But if he is out there and he looks shaky, I mean, like, that's not great.
Yeah.
I mean, his snaps were for sure limited in this last preseason game. Like, for sure limited. Now, that doesn't hide the fact that he's also been getting outplayed during training camp. Like we've heard a lot more of, again, Troy Franklin. I've actually heard more about Pat Bryant than I've heard about Devon Vele. And I know Vele popped off in, mini camp and stuff like that. He was doing good in workouts then, but right now in training camp, it's mostly Franklin and Pat Bryant and heck, even Trent Sherfield. I mean, Trent Sherfield balled out.
Dude, Trent Sherfield looks like a
By the way,
I can't believe I didn't talk about Trent Sherfield yet, man. I'm sorry. Trent, I'm sorry if you listen to this. My bad. Go ahead, Jordan.
You want to talk about a major upgrade in terms of from little Jordan Humphrey to Trent Sherfield Jr.? I mean, my lord, that
doesn't take much, though, Jordan. Doesn't take much.
It doesn't
The
take
bar
much,
was low,
but the area of improvement is so big. But I mean, those three guys though: Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, and Trent Sherfield Jr. I've heard those three names consistently on a day-to-day basis during training camp and joint practice with the Niners, and maybe even tomorrow with the Cardinals, more than I have Devon Vele. And yes, I understand that he's dealing with some type of injury that we are not very clear about because we've heard that, he may come back, but I don't know. Again, the whole deal is suspicious, but again, I don't see him playing. This might surprise Cam, but I don't see him playing over a guy like a Pat Bryant at this point.
Yeah. What do you guys feel about Landon's point here? Because, like, it's a conversation I feel like is we're kind of transitioning into the running back room. Frankly, it's somewhat of a conversation about Jaleel McLaughlin. Not age side of things, but it's one where the ceiling is a bit capped with Vele. Like you kind of know exactly what you're getting with a player like Devon Vele. A good player, but it's one where he's going to be eating a lot of the middle of the field, probably be a majority slot receiver, really good one. But you kind of get Jaleel McLaughlin, right? And to where he's a bit limited, right? In terms of like he can have some explosive runs on the outside and he'll provide you a little bit of some burst, if you will, but he doesn't add a lot to the receiving game. He can catch the ball, but he doesn't add a whole lot to the receiving game. It's almost like to the same argument of Phillip Lindsay when he was a Denver Bronco. Like he would add some burst, but not necessarily enough, in the passing game. Sorry to piss off Buffs fans, but I just think that, when you, And so when you look at just the running back room, Blake Watson offers more. He had an unbelievable preseason against the Niners. Tyler Bidet, played exceptionally well. So like the running back room feels like it even shifted. The wide receiver room feels like it shifted to where it's like you do kind of have to Landon's point. It's like, I wonder if you are kind of looking at things, maybe not so much from like the top 6 guys, but the top 5 guys for sure feels like it's a little bit different at that wide receiver room. And then obviously the running back room feels like it's completely shifted at that point.
To me, like, I think Devon Bailey is kind of going the route of Tim Patrick in the good and the bad.
Evan Ingram
like,
too.
In the sense that, Evan Ingram too. In the sense that, like, he's kind of just like the forgotten guy that is just Mr. Dependable, is not giving you anything flashy, which, I mean, leads to you wonder about like his ceiling. But I think push comes to shove, like, you're going to like having a guy like him on the roster because he's, based on what we've seen so far, again, in the just based on last season, if he's healthy, he's just a solid weapon. He's not like a number 1. He's maybe not even necessarily the best number 2, but he's a guy that can go out there, run your offense, and your quarterback can depend on him at least a little bit. And I think that's worth keeping around. Are there guys that are going to supplant him potentially? Sure. Like the aforementioned Troy Franklin. I mean, they're not that they're even going to be playing the same position on the field, but just like you talk about snap count and how much of the offense they get, like it could happen. And then same position as the wide receiver, but they're not going to be used the same way. And then also again, like, Trent Sherfield, who was incredible. Like Trent Sherfield's balling out. So kudos to him too. And that's also, again, really nice to see. Again, someone else step up. And I think it just, Devon Bailey, he's probably going to have a spot on this roster. We might have to wait a little bit to see him make a difference. I'm not saying he's as good as Tim Patrick. I'm just saying like his role and like the way that he kind of exists on the roster reminds me of Tim Patrick. He's kind of just like a little bit forgotten. He does a little bit of the same stuff that your other guys do, but you're going to like having him around because he's going to provide that consistency. Tim Patrick was a better receiver from what we had seen. Like we've seen more of Tim Patrick than Devon Bailey. Like don't get it twisted, but the same kind of, just not even like mannerisms isn't the right word, but just like the way that their position, their position on the team, their role in the team, it just kind of goes, they're just both like guys that kind of get forgotten about. They're not going to be the flashiest of dudes, but they're going to be solid. Tim Patrick, much better than Devon Bailey, but just similar in that way.
Also, guess where Tim Patrick went to school.
Oh yeah, Utah State. Utah.
Yeah.
But again, I like Devon Bailey fits in the same archetype as like a Cortland Sutton, a Pat, like they're possession type receivers.
Yeah,
like they're gonna carve out the same role. I know Bailey can play in the slot as well, but they're same body type. I've been talking about this for it seems like a couple years already, and it's gotten me off the rails because we haven't had much of a diversity in that wide receiver room, but now we do a little bit. But like in terms of like that archetype of a wide receiver, right now Bailey's on the bottom. Like, I would even put Trent Sherfield kind of fits that role as well. Right. Because the only other role on that wide receiver room is like a Mims and a Franklin, which is vertical speed and somewhat of a separation. I know both of them have gotten better at creating separation, but they're more vertical speed, stretching out the defense, right? And then I would even throw Evan Ingram into that mix of big body possession receivers because he is more of a receiver than he is a tight end. But yeah, right now, out of all those guys, right now, Vele's at the end of that list. Unfortunately, I know he has had flashes where we've praised him, but as right now with his situation going on and stuff like that, he has to be at the bottom of the list.
And granted, it's a good problem to have, but to Andy's point and to what we're talking about, that middle of the field or where the slot for the most part occupies, like the moment Evan Ingram came in, like that's a lot of mouths to feed. right? Like, because you're going to probably have RJ Harvey at times, operate the middle of the field. You're going to end up having, obviously, Evan Ingram operate the middle of the field for a fair amount, right? Like, he'll be operating that for a fair amount. Mims, a few times, might be operating the middle of the field. Troy Franklin, depending on his route tree, might be in that middle of the field. So there's just a lot of mouths to feed. Adam Troutman, right? Like for a tight end too, might end up, operating some of that middle of the field. So I just think that is to where it's like you just have a little bit more at your disposal for weapons, and than just Vele there. So I don't know. And then you go to the running back room, right? I think that when you look at the running back room, boy, did that shift. And you really don't need to look no further than the other big takeaway, should I say, of that preseason one. And granted, we're not trying to put on our overreaction caps. It is just really hard to ignore. And that is, it really felt like Audric Estime was back or had never left the doghouse since that Buffalo Bills game. And he has an uphill battle because Tyler Bidet looked really good. Frankly, if you wanted a conversation of who looked better between Tyler Bidet and Blake Watson, that's probably a worthwhile conversation. Jaleel, even looked good at spurts with how quick he was able to run, through the second and third team defense or third and 14th defense. So, but in terms of how crisp and how confident those runs were for outside zone, which is something that they're trying, it seemed like, the Broncos were having so much success with guys like Bidet and Watson.
I mean, yeah. Blake Watson, I think, like,
Brandon.
Yeah, it just continues to show out a little bit for me. And I know it sounded like he had maybe a bit more of a rough time in camp kind of recently. But Blake Watson, I think, has just continued to show like that the depth at running back on this team is like to the point where honestly I'm a little confused why we didn't see more of him last year. Maybe there was like an injury that I'm not aware of that maybe was reported that I just missed or something. But given how bad the running game looked last year and what you saw out of Blake Watson, at least initially, like, yeah, it was really like not a big sample size, but I just think like it's a little baffling to me because of how terrible the running game was last year that we didn't at least try to see more of him. But it's nice now to know like we have some depth there. Whereas it felt like based on what we had seen last year, it's like, okay, well, the guys we have at the top are the guys that we have, and like they're not good, so we got to add some more talent to the room. Whereas now it's like, we have RJ Harvey, we have J.K. Dobbins, and it feels like, obviously we have Blake Watson. I think Audric Estime, I'm not going to say anything rash, like I don't know if he's going to be on the roster, but just it's not looking
it's not the
best. Like
no.
He's maybe RB5 right now, so maybe,
yeah.
Not great, Bob. Not great, but no, Blake Watson. I think I'm really excited to see more of. I'm just, why did we not see him last year?
Well, we
Maybe
saw
there must have been an injury. Didn't see him more last year, more than we should have. Again, based on how sorely needed any kind of a run game was, I just don't get it. But there's probably something that I don't know there.
Yeah,
injury wise, or I don't know.
So let's say they carry 4 running backs. Who are the 4 running backs right now?
Obviously JK and RJ. And then I'm going with Tyler Toilet and Blake Watson. Those are the 4.
Wow. I mean, I do see Bidet making it just because not only Sean has a fascination of Tyler Bidet, but with the opportunities he has gotten, he's made the most out of it, which you have to give him his credit. There's something about estimate. Like, I'm not a overly big estimate guy, but there is a time where you do need a power runner. And I tweeted this out, I think, a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And I've had a conversation. He does bring that physicality to the room, and sometimes you do need those tough yards to get, and estimate can provide that.
But also maybe why they signed J.K. Dobbins, right? Like, I mean, because J.K.
is also true.
He's a bit more of that balanced running back of that entire room.
Which is also true. And I would say this. I think it's getting tougher for estimate like as the days go on. Right now, the 4 running backs, at least in my opinion, I actually tweeted out that estimate would have been the 4th one just because of that power element. But realistically speaking, I think it'd be J.K., R.J., Bidet, and then Watson as the 4th runner.
You know, and the thing is, like, I just have a feeling that Jaleel will stay on the roster, which is okay. They're still at this point would need to be a role defined for him, which, you know, and because I just think the thing is like Sean is going to keep the guys that he will always love. So that means that, you know, root beer vape Nate Atkins is probably going to still be on the team, and maybe. But Michael Burton will be on the team. He might be cut 15,000 times, but he'll be on the team. You know, Adam Troutman, he's a really solid tight end too. He's on the team. And then you have Jaleel McLaughlin. Like, Sean Payton loves Jaleel McLaughlin. So it just from even that standpoint, it's a bit hard for me to see Jaleel off the roster, but like just entirely of asking me like what I would want that running back room to look. It's undoubtedly J.K., R.J., Tyler Bidet, and, you know, Blake Watson. I will say from the J.K. Dobbins side of things, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. So he played sparingly, but it's when he played, and I got to give credit to Andy because he was the first person that actually caught this eye when we were watching the game. But when we saw J.K., it seemed like it was in 3rd down situations, and it seemed like they were quite featuring R.J. Harvey. I don't know if that is a sign of maybe the way things are going to go, where it'll be the reverse of everything that we thought it was going to be, which is, you know, right, like I said, 55-45 in favor of J.K. Dobbins. The way it looked there was like it might actually have a chance to be 60-40 or 55-45 of RJ and J.K. Dobbins. But where they put J.K. in terms of like the 3rd down back, I thought was really interesting because it did seem like for the spots that he was in, he fit with what they were wanting to do on that offense, Brandon, pretty well for all intents and purposes.
I mean, yeah, I think J.K. Dobbins being kind of primarily the 3rd down back was interesting and like surprising and not surprising at the same time. And the reason I say that is like you kind of wondered, especially the fantasy community, when you heard like the uproar that happened from that side of the of the internet.
Massive celebration, if you will.
When RJ Harvey was drafted, it was like, oh, he's like the clear bell cow, like number 1. It's like bell cow backs don't even exist anymore, but like the clear number 1 running back and a backfield that has like pretty much no one else on a team with a great offensive line that's coached by Sean Payton that's going to, you know, catch a bunch of balls. Like, all that's true. And then we signed J.K. Dobbins because like you can't just give it all to RJ Harvey. And
he's a rookie.
Just like immediately everyone's like, RJ Harvey's a bust. His entire career is over. He's going to be trash. J.K. Dobbins for life or whatever. I don't know, but undraftable. Take him off your board.
Yeah.
No one actually said that, but at this point, I'm just having fun with it. And then I was kind of like, I mean, they're both running backs that are going to start for this team, and you can't really just give 300 carries to RJ Harvey.
Okay.
So,
do you not know how Sean Payton operates?
I know. It's like it's literally Alvin Kamara and
Mark Ingram
Mark Ingram again. Not Melvin Ingram, Mark Ingram, like all over again the same way.
Could you imagine
anyway,
running back? Sorry.
I know, right? If Melvin Ingram was on this team. Anyway, and then you get to the game. Like, it's interesting to me because obviously, RJ Harvey's weakness is pass protection. Like, he's just not as good at it, which just pouring out for the homies because I really, really, really pouring out for me. I'm a homie because I really wanted Travion Henderson. I love RJ Harvey, but I wanted Travion Henderson so bad. Travion Henderson is so good in pass protection, and he also just looks like he's so good at literally every other part of being a running back for the Patriots. He's insane. Anyway, RJ Harvey, not good at pass protection. J.K. Dobbins, just in like way better at pass protection than RJ Harvey. The bar was not high, but that's, I think, why you primarily saw him out there on third down. It's early, but it's interesting to just see. I think this is going to be more split, but maybe they're trying to get RJ Harvey like more up to speed in the offense. And maybe, especially because of what we saw in the preseason, I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see maybe more of RJ Harvey and less of J.K. Dobbins, just because we want RJ to kind of get more acclimated to the offense and know when he can
bounce
when he can and can't bounce the run outside, which there were only like a couple times that I thought he really like didn't need to, but I think you're going to see more because of that. And then just like, you're going to continue to hear is it RJ Harvey? Is it his backfield? And it's like, no, it's still both of them.
Right.
I think J.K. Dobbins is going to have a role in this team, and I'm excited to see what that role is. Cause I think J.K. Dobbins is still a good player. I'm just excited that we have some actual existence of a running game. J.K. Dobbins, it just was interesting to me that he was only third down. And I think you're going to continue to see that maybe in the season until you see RJ Harvey maybe improve in his pass protection a little bit.
Which it sounds like he's been better. Like, depending on who you talk to, it seems like things have been trending upwards with his pass protection. Like, it's actually seems like it's been getting better and better.
Yeah.
Since camp. Jordan, one of the parts that I thought was so fascinating with the way they used RJ Harvey was you saw some Alvin Kamara type plays with RJ Harvey. Granted, they didn't hit on a fair amount of them, but those typical plays you see from the Sean Payton type of offense with Alvin Kamara, where they basically swing the running back out, and they're basically blocking like a different kind of halfback screen. Like, there was one play in particular where, granted, if Bo maybe set his feet a little bit and threw it over the lineman and he was able to get Harvey, he probably takes that for a good 20 to maybe a good 30 to 40 yards, because there were just wide open spaces for how he was going to go. So I also like that part of it, Jordan, where you could clearly tell it seemed like they were creating a niche for him in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, he does remind, and I know Payton has talked about it, but he is almost, I don't want to say identical, but he is getting close to being like a Darren Sproles type of running back. And I think Payton loves that. In terms of the snaps and how it was made of, or what it was made of, I see JK being the third down back for many reasons. One, obviously, because of pass pro. And also, two, like, this is what I kind of got out of it, right? RJ getting the first and second down snaps, getting your rookie into some type of groove, right, on back-to-back downs. Third down, JK is obviously better at pass protection. He can run some similar routes out of the backfield, good receiving throw out of the backfield. And also, you don't necessarily need to overexert J.K. Dobbins. We already know he has an injury history. If he's just primarily a third down back and every once in a while he gets RJ Harvey a break on a first down or a second down, I'm not saying to limit his snaps all the way down, but if you can kind of manage him out throughout the whole season, knowing that he does have an extent of an injury history, make him just primarily the third down back.
It's load management to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be bad at all. I mean, it gets RJ Harvey into a groove on first and second down, and then J.K. Dobbins on third down. You open up the possibilities. That's kind of how I read it, and I don't mind it because you limit the injury possibility with J.K. with only playing on third downs and every once in a while on early downs. And then RJ Harvey is your main first and second down back. I don't mind that at all.
flipping scripts to the defensive side of the ball. That's where it got pretty good quickly in terms of even to that second unit. And when we talk about depth, obviously we saw it, when Stidham came into the game. But if you really wanted to get a chance to see the depth of this team, it was that defense that everybody raves about. There was so much to like, as far as the defensive performance. I know there were some people that didn't like Savion Jones in terms of preseason. I thought he played pretty well.
Yeah, he played
actually. So I thought he played pretty well. With preseason, but as we're kind of rounding it, I figured that this is kind of a nice little time. If Mike Carmelini was in the building, he would hate us. But like, for who would be deserving of, who gets their flowers for, the risers of preseason number one, in talking about this defense, and talking about the offensive like players that maybe stood out a little bit. I think that there's a lot of players to name, specifically from that defensive side of the ball, I would just say. So, Brandon, why don't we just kind of start with you specifically on that defensive side of the ball about some of those players that really stood out to you?
It's literally impossible for me to not say Nick Benito, even though it's like also the clearly most obvious
possible
name
sack
ever.
on a possession.
Just like, yeah, it's like 3 straight defensive snaps and like 3 straight basically sacks and or QB hits. Just like absolutely wrecked that entire drive single-handedly. Kind of Von Miller-esque a little bit, I'll be honest. Like, he's different player, but just like that was the last time I remember a single defensive player taking over a series by himself and just being like, nope, you're done. Go back to the bench.
Which he ended up limping off. And
I know. I hated it. I hated it so much, but
we're okay. I think
it seems to be minor. But no, Nick Benito absolutely looked like a wrecking ball. Please pay the man. Pay the man yesterday. It's just going to continue to get more expensive.
Do you see where he got ranked in comparison to
40? What?
In comparison to Micah Parsons?
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
2 spots off.
Wow. Pay Nick Benito.
Benito got 38. 38. And then Parsons got 36.
And I'm not worried about the contract situation because like we pay our guys.
Yep.
And we pay them before the market resets and we get decent deals on them. So like I think it'll be fine. But yeah, that Nick Benito, pay that man. And then I'll pass it to Jordan.
I'm gonna shy away from the bigger names, and I'm gonna go with one of my favorite. Listen, I know I can be biased with some certain players around the league. I'm starting to get to this point with this defensive player, and it's gonna be weird because he's mostly known as a special teams player, at least for the Broncos. But I gotta see more of JL Skinner. I have to. I wrote I wrote about him this morning on Predominantly Orange, on how he can maybe fix some of the depth issues that we have in the inside linebacker room. He is 6'4". He's over 220 pounds. I'm pretty sure he gained weight. He's probably around 230.
Same height as Drew Sanders.
I mean, he runs a 4.5. He is a freak athlete, and I think that's even undervaluing it because he is just a freak of nature. He played more snaps in the box than he did at safety in the 49ers game.
Just noticing.
I'm hoping that's telling a little bit because I really feel like he can be something special as one of those guys in the box. I know there's a lot of depth, and I'm glad there's a lot of depth in the safety room with Hufanga, Brandon Jones, PJ Locke. I mean, you name it. But
not a lot of depth in the linebacker room.
Listen, after Singleton and Greenlaw, who has a extensive injury history, it is Lavelle Bailey, who we are excited about. Justin Stranad, who has shown flashes whenever he's given the opportunity. But that's about it.
And Karen Reed, who showed out.
And Cameron Reed, but I'm telling you, J.L. Skinner, he can be special.
Well,
he really can.
I mean, I know you guys know this, but there's one thing that I've been spouting about J.L. Skinner, and that is a possible Jamal Adams type role for this. It's like to where you could, but to where you have him in the box, right? Like you have him in the box, and he's able to rush the passer and play that linebacker type role. You know, maybe they're seeing that.
I hope so. I really think he can be something special, especially on this defense that's aggressive and all that. I gotta see it.
Kodiak says Pure Scorn is going to take Nate Atkins' job. For anybody that does not know the whole root beer Nate Atkins story, it's a pretty hysterical story that you may have to have a conversation with Kodiak about. He does talk about it on the show. I think that, you know, the other part is like when you start kind of peeling down just how deep this team is, you really did see it. Like, I think there was the conversation, right, about like how deep this secondary is or how deep this cornerback room is. It was pretty evident how deep this cornerback room is, because again, like I think that when you were talking about J.L. Skinner, or before you even said J.L. Skinner's name, I actually thought you were going to talk about this player, and that was Chris Abrams-Drain. If there is one player who should be talked about a lot more on this defense, or particularly in that secondary, it is 100% Chris Abrams-Drain. Like, it is abundantly clear that he is pretty well valued by the team. It just, I mean, even Chris Harris loves him. But it's just like, it's one where, like, the depth is so crazy that, like, it does, I mean, this is the other layer of it. It does make the Baron pick a little bit interesting in that sense when you see like Chris Abrams-Drain kind of ball out like that. But still, like, when you see just the overall completeness of it, like, at least on the surface after the first preseason game, it's like it makes you, they're like, oh, wow, the decision to sign Levi Wallace and add him to this room makes no sense whatsoever, you know? And so I think having about as much depth as you possibly can in that in that cornerback room, and to have it be so flexible, I think is going to be amazing. And I thought the defensive back room as a whole played exceptionally well. And actually, Jordan, one player in particular is one who might force a trade piece, for I should say a trade piece for the Broncos, and that would be Damari Mathis if the play of Jaden Robinson continues in preseason number 1. If there is a player who outshined and probably is deserving of some love in a very crowded defensive back room, it is Jaden Robinson. He was on all the wide receivers, it seemed like, for the 49ers, all night. Like, he was on them on glue. Like glue. I can't talk.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we have this. I don't want to call it like a big problem, but like the depth on the secondary is absolutely ridiculous. That's not even mentioning like someone like Quentin Newsome, or I know Pickett's more of a safety, but he played well as well. But I don't see Damari Mathis making the original 53. If he goes on the practice squad, I'm wondering if somebody's going to snatch him up, because if he does, then you kind of lose him for nothing.
Yeah.
But at that point, if you trade him, what are you going to get back for Mathis? A 7th, 6th, if anything?
You also know that he's going to be probably not on the Broncos anyway, because I thought it was weird being at practice, but I also thought it was weird seeing it in a game. 2 players wearing the number 27. I thought I was back in watching college games with Mathis wearing 27 and JK wearing 27. But that's usually somewhat of a case too, that he's probably not going to be on the team all that much.
Yeah, so I just don't see it. And it sucks because he was our starting corner, 2-3 years ago,
3 years ago.
which is crazy. And then
He was on the arc of actually, what is it, Michael Ojemudia? Because
Yeah.
Ojemudia had a really good, strong start to his career
yeah.
as the Bronco, and then like that following year, he crashed and burned, and that's exactly what happened to Mathis.
Yeah, so at least there's good competition in that room, and like there's never gonna be like a week where you're safe in terms of like, yeah, I'm gonna play every snap this Sunday. Like we can rotate guys if we have to, and that's a good thing. At least if we have more fresh bodies out on the field, the better. But yeah, the Chris Abrams drain, he did well last year with his snaps that he had, and even the preseason last year he did well, but he is a different player right now, just completely different.
Yeah, and that is a very common theme, right? Like we talked about it, like
The development.
that's a different conversation right now for a lot of these players that's on this team right now. We talked about Troy Franklin earlier. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about the other offensive side of the ball, and of course, because special teams are people too, that we didn't talk about that, meaning Jeremy Crawshaw as well. But the offensive line, the first team offensive line, that was a disappointment. Like that was a disappointment. Not too much overreactionary, but in the grand scheme of things of disappointments, yeah, that was a bit of a disappointment. And it was the entire unit. Like it wasn't just like any one person stood out that, played poorly. I mean, it was everybody. I mean, all pro guard, Quinn Miners was getting beat left and right. Ben Powers was getting beat left and right. Wattenberg, Luke Wattenberg was getting beat left and right. It seemed, or looked confused if you're Patrick Coyote at times. So
are we comfortable with him being the center?
I don't know.
I know that's his starting spot, and he talked about it at you, which was surprising, at least to me. But listen, I'm not saying Luke is a bad center whatsoever, and I've talked to Pat about this actually. There is a different style that Forsyth brings. I know everybody's going to remember Forsyth as the guy that gave up the blocked field goal against the Chiefs. Boo-hoo, guys. The game's over with. Don't stop worrying about that. I'm talking from a center standpoint and on the offensive line. When he was in the game last year at center, our run game was at its best. And I don't think it was a coincidence at all. Now, I understand this is Luke's job for now, but it is interesting.
It is the wink link of the offensive line.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I mean, but that's for the most part, it's a good problem to have. I mean, just because it means the vast majority of your offensive line is really good. I mean, the Broncos do have Brandon, like a top 5 offensive line, but it is a question. I mean, and, when we had Strez on and he talked about, being a former running back and he talked about them converting to an outside zone, should we be talking about that more? Like, and what I'm saying is that, like, when you look at the Broncos and just simply running an inside zone blocking scheme to an outside zone blocking scheme, you do need players that are scheme fit to a degree, or not scheme dependent, if you will. Like, that they can play any type of scheme, right? Are we reading or not reading too much into that? Like, we should probably be reading a little bit into that. Like, I just feel like for like Wattenberg, or particularly like Alex Forsyth, playing with Bo Nix, and particularly at Oregon, do you think maybe there's actually a window here because they're actually going to outside zone, that maybe Forsyth actually has a bit of a window to take?
I mean, especially with how Luke Wattenberg played against the 49ers, like, I think it is a way for him to lose that job outright. But I mean, yeah, I think you saw it a little bit on like Luke not getting to the second level on some of those blocks and just not being athletic enough, which is something I think you're going to need more of. You're going to need like a more athletic offensive line for like that kind of outside zone scheme that you're looking to kind of get more into. And I think the other kind of side of it too is like not only do you need athleticism, you also need just more, I would say, strength in general and like physicality, able to kind of move people like a people mover. And I think that's also something that's like a strength of Alex Forsyth as well. So I think there's kind of a couple of different pathways for him to get more of a look at starting center, especially with, again, how bad Luke looked, unfortunately, but just with the athleticism and the strength, specifically like the athleticism seems to be a Luke Wattenberg weakness, and then the strength is something that seems to be a strength of Forsyth. So I think it's definitely possible where you could see there be more of a competition there. And again, I wouldn't even be surprised if Luke just outright loses the job to Alex Forsyth. But I mean, there's a lot of time to still kind of make that decision, but just based on what we saw on Saturday, not great for Luke.
Yeah. You know, but when you do talk about some of the winners of the day, Nick Ergulio, a guy kind of forgotten a little bit about with, what was it, the first or second Sean Payton draft? He was like a 7th rounder. I want to say it was probably the second, right? Like second. You know, but he was kind of forgotten about. Like seemed like he was a bit more of just a special teamer, you know, maybe used as an extra field goal block body, but developmental guard, you know, has some center flexibility. He played guard, right? Like he played some guard and did quite well. So, I mean, if you are hypothetically looking at stuff down the line and you do want to move on from Ben Powers, which contractually the Broncos could in a year or two or in a couple of years, Ergulio, you know, I mean, if all things turn out the way that it does just simply from that one preseason game, which, I mean, again, we're talking about preseason, but like that's the kind of development that you want to see on a day in and day out basis. But Ergulio looked good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something, I don't know, Jordan, if you had anything you wanted to say there, but it's definitely, I want to see what that's going to look like against the Cardinals specifically, because, I mean, the starting offensive line is set, but I think you really have set besides center, but you really have some more question marks, I think, on the depth of the offensive line, and it does not look that deep right now. So I think this is a good time to see more of your kind of backup pieces and determine like if you need to be looking at elsewhere at other roster cuts as we get closer to the start of the season, if we need to maybe add more people there.
Are you keeping 9 or 10 offensive linemen?
Probably
That's interesting.
10.
Ravens kept 10 offensive linemen last year.
I think if there's one place you're going to keep as many people as humanly possible, it's got to be like offensive line and corner. And speaking of corner, we are also, edge at corner also looks the depth of corner also looks pretty good.
As evidenced by Jaden Robinson. We talked about him earlier. Yeah.
But anyway, I would say probably, I mean, I think 10. I think the more the better, but make sure it's 10 guys that are worth keeping. Like, don't just keep 10 dudes because you need to have that number. Like, I think, again, that's why it's going to be interesting to see what does the offensive line look like for the rest of the preseason, and a time for some of the backup guys to kind of showcase what they got and if they are worthy of staying on this roster. And like, do we need to maybe look at other potential replacements or just other depth options,
or sign players right from other teams that, you know, in terms of poaching and, you know, scouring the free agency wire in terms of players later on in preseason for other teams that didn't get a chance to make it. All right. Special teams, special plays, special players. Jeremy Crawshaw.
Speaking of potential people to look for
or battle, if you will, to have a battle. He is the only person in the room. And it did seem like on Tuesday, to try and get a bit of his confidence up, that they were kicking full field punts just to get him some confidence. It felt like. But Crawshaw, a bit of an underwhelming preseason against the Niners. He had probably some punts here and there, but the majority of them not great. The hang time, it seemed like was good, but I think probably also, at least to preface it a little bit too, is like I would just say it wasn't all Crawshaw. Like the punt coverage was terrible. Like the one where it was like allowing a 28-yard punt return. I guarantee you that Rizzy has lost sleep over that. Like at least 4 hours of sleep on that type of play alone. So Crawshaw though, a bit of a disappointment, right? But like it isn't something, because it's a rookie and we need to be showing about as much grace as we can. But he is also the only body in that room. They drafted him, the only body in the room. Got to add a body probably if something doesn't materialize after this second preseason game, which will be at home in the altitude.
Yeah, it did not look great. I mean, it's one preseason game, but I think you got to be at least a little curious about, can we get some other just competition here or something? Because not the best.
I'm not that worried. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not that worried. Just because he's a rookie, it was his very first NFL game, stepping on the field. I'm assuming there was jitters out there and stuff like that. He got it out. I mean, what we've heard in practice is that he's been bombing the ball every single time. Yet in that one preseason game, he was a little shaky. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt now. If we see it again in the second preseason and the third preseason game, then it'll be time to panic. But I do believe his practice habits will translate to the game. I'll just chalk that up to just being nervous and just, it's very first time playing an NFL game. I mean, it's a surreal moment. So
for sure,
I'll chalk it up to that.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure. I think it's the only reason I say I think it's time to maybe look at adding some competition is because there literally is none. And I definitely think you can expect there to be a little bit of that rookie learning curve. But when you are a team that's having, playoff aspirations and borderline Super Bowl aspirations, although I would not go that far yet, but the hype is getting a little bit too much. I'll be honest. Like it's getting to the point where it's kind of like, okay, like chill out a little bit here because you're gonna start to knock on wood real hard or something. I don't know, but I think you definitely can't afford to be behind in any phase of the game in a way where you are still trying to have a guy that is learning to play the position in the NFL. And I mean, obviously it's still professional sports. Like it's not going to have the same learning curve. It's like tight end, right? But I think you want someone you can trust there. And I don't know if he's quite there yet. And yeah, I mean, it's been one preseason game. Like I'm definitely not throwing the book at him yet. Not throwing him out yet. Just maybe have another option just in case it continues to be an issue throughout the rest of preseason.
What's the clip of Ryan in the office? He's jotting down the note. That's basically what we would be doing with Jeremy Crawshaw. We're just jotting it down as far as a note. Looking forward to this preseason against the Cardinals as we're winding down the show. They do play against the Cardinals. It is expected that the starters will play a little bit more. I will be at that game. So if Broncos,
dude, I'm going to be at that game too.
So if Bronco
I'm not.
fans, well, you do live out of Colorado, Jordan.
Unbelievable. Go ahead. My bad.
Uh, but yeah, no. If you guys feel like you want to come say hi, come say hi. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I do hopefully stay for the entire game. I know it's gonna be a preseason game again, but so all the starters will be playing a little bit more than normal. Now that the preseason games have been shrunk, if you will, to where this is kind of like the third preseason game compared to like the to where it was in the past, if you will. But Sean did say, to kind of like talk about what we did with the running back room, he did say that the running back usage might be a little bit different. So as much as we do talk about Audric Estime and him being in the doghouse, it's at least worth repeating in a sense that, okay, so as far as like things that we're going to be looking out for, if the same conversation is happening of this running back room after preseason 2, then there's probably some legitimate conversation that needs to be said more and more about Audric Estime. Because if he, and maybe all he's talking about is just a simple reshuffling of a room, is just that, oh, we'll actually have that J.K. Dobbins take on a little bit more of a role, in this preseason number 2. And then maybe instead of Tyler Bidet having that third running back reps, after Dobbins and Harvey, you'll actually see Blake Watson or you'll see Jaleel, right? So maybe that's in essence what he means by a bit of a shuffled running back room. But that would be like tops as far as like what I'd be looking out for preseason.
It's definitely going to be.
I wonder if they showcase Estime a little bit more this game, but not just to showcase him, like to see if he's going to make. Like I think he's going to be trade bait.
So when we asked the question earlier, like 2 episodes ago, who is going to be the Trinity Benson and Alberto Cuebanam of this team?
I think it's him.
You think it's Estime?
Yep.
Does he have any trade value?
We didn't think Alberto Cuebanam had trade value.
That's fair. That's true. I mean, I also didn't know if Trinity Benson had trade. You know what? I'm not going to doubt.
And
George
we
Payton.
got like 2 draft picks for Trinity Benson.
That was crazy. I don't.
That was actually, I was doing the Immaculate Grid the other day, and it was Broncos Lions, and I'm like, let me do a Trinity Benson. It was 0.2%. It was awesome.
That sounds about right.
It was awesome.
But yeah, so maybe they do showcase him a little bit. Although to be fair, I think didn't they showcase Okuebanam in the very last preseason game?
They did. Like he got fed a lot.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do it in 2, then they most certainly will be doing it in 3.
Yeah.
So what else is going to be catching your eye?
I think I'm definitely going to watch more of the wide receiver room. I want to see more.
Where are you
Troy
sitting,
Franklin?
Brandon?
Let me check. I have a friend of mine sent me the tickets because they have season tickets. Hold, please.
Put him on the spot.
I'll be sitting on my couch.
You know what they say. Sometimes the best seat is literally in your house.
They do say that.
I am sitting at.
Unless it's, seeing the Boston Celtics win the NBA Finals. Then it's not really the best seat in the house.
I was also here at my house for that. Yes.
Section 515, row 23.
Sometimes there's no better view than the all 22 view.
That is actually a very true statement. I mean, I watch all of my UM games from Section 300, and it's pretty awesome.
Like I'm 135, and it's like right when the Broncos like run out of the tunnel, and like it is one where it's like even though it's 135 and you're like at the corner, you still get somewhat of that all 22 view. So it's really hard to beat. Like it's really hard to beat. It's really hard to beat like being at games, right? Like it's really hard to be at games, but it's just another thing, like to watch it from like that point of view that you always would get it at, like an all 22, if you will. Because like it's one thing to enjoy like the broadcast view on certain situations, right? But to actually be there in person and see like the aerial shots of throws that you literally will be seeing on all 22 that will be released in like 7 days because of how NFL Plus works. But so yeah, you're saying wide receiver room. I am curious about the wide receiver room as well. Not to pander to the guy who's down there on the bottom, but I really did like what I saw from Bryant. We didn't talk about him all that much, but I really did kind of like what I saw from him. He made some really good catches. He was actually wide open. There was another play, actually. So as much as we were talking about the Troy Franklin clip, there was a clip where he was wide open. And, for as much as Stidham was cooking, he missed Bryant wide open down the sideline.
I see that.
So, like, you can tell he's a bit of a savvy route runner. Obviously not the fastest, right? Like, obviously not the fastest, but you can.
He's not slow though.
But
I don't know.
He's
not a speedster. He's definitely not a speedster, but he's not slow.
But it's definitely one where you could clearly tell like what's game speed versus like pure speed, right? But
I was thinking about throwing in a joke there, but I'd rather not.
It's okay. He was just gonna send the gif of him running like a snail. Again, that's all Jordan was gonna be doing.
No, I was actually gonna say that I don't know who's faster, either him or Lucas Kroll, but I'll leave that for another day.
But we'll need to pull up that picture of Lucas Kroll, maybe just for the broadcast. That whenever we do shows, which is literally just him and after scoring a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't know what the Niners were doing there. I mean, he was.
But yeah, no, wide receiver though is definitely one where I'm definitely watching. And we didn't talk about him, but he was probably on my numero uno watch list of that wide receiver room, not counting the others. But Joaquin Davis had himself a game. And I will actually say this. We didn't get a chance to talk about it. We didn't get a chance to talk about the tight end room. I was very, very, very surprised how limited we saw Caleb Lawner.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping in preseason number 2, and I don't know why Sean would do this, but maybe he was just simply holding out for like Lawner to ease him into the NFL by having him be at home, and that's the majority of his play time, if you will, would be in preseason, just to get him acclimated to the home field advantage. You're being in front of your home crowd. It gets the juices flowing. There's nothing like being in front of your home team, right? So I don't know. Like, if there is one thing we didn't get a chance to see, is that I would just say, do we see Caleb Lawner more in preseason 2?
I think so.
If not, then there's something going on.
Or they are. I think they're semi redshirting him anyway. But if they don't play him as much, I think at some point to the level of they might be redshirting him this year.
Maybe.
Because it is obvious, like, right? Like, Sean has talked about like how much he loves Lawner, right? At times, like how much he's coming along. But like there's some plays like where you did see him on the field where it's like, dude, this guy's massive. 6'7", like, and as big of a body as he has, like, so if he could be able to make it work and be that weapon, as we said before, he is like that diamond, if you will, that you can find. But other than that, we have the second preseason game, and we'll see if the Broncos can come out on top and get their first unofficial club dub at home in front of the home fans. Do you guys have anything else as far as like things that you would probably be looking out for?
More Blake Watson.
See, the moment we do get a lot of Blake Watson is the moment we want more Blake Watson. Just like the Chargers game.
I want the first play to be a hard play action to RJ Harvey and a deep bomb to Troy Franklin, no matter if he is doubled, tripled, or quadruple covered.
That would be fun.
I just want to see what happens.
He's gonna pull the Josh Reynolds play against the Steelers. Just go up and get it.
I know it's a preseason game. I think it'd be, and I know it's not gonna happen because it's very rare, especially in a preseason game. But it'd be really cool if that stadium can get near packed out, like
for a preseason game.
For a preseason game, like it'd be like the players would feel some type of, because again, there's been a lot of aspirations with this team. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of hype. If the fans on a preseason game can nearly, I'm not saying sell it out, but like nearly, have it bumping. I mean, I think it'd be pretty cool.
It's also the first, quite literally, home game of the season.
So hopefully, I know Broncos country is going to show out, but I think it'd be pretty awesome if it's near capacity. But again, it is a preseason game, so I'm not going to get my hopes up. But
yeah,
there's going to be at least 2 people there,
and just for the crowd, because views, we do get views, if you will, when we talk about Bo Nix. I do think we get a better Bo Nix. I do think we get a better Bo. And I think he'll probably play into, like, maybe not so much like 2 or 3 minutes into the second quarter. But I think he probably plays the majority of the first quarter. But I will say this, though, because I just feel like this would be how Sean operates. If Bo comes in as surgical in like 2 or 3 drives, you just pull him. Just pull him. Because it's pretty evident, like, that he would be on his A game at that point. Like if he's red hot after 2 or 3 drives, yeah, I've seen enough.
Yep.
So, but I do think we see a better Bo. The question will be if we see a better Jarrett Stidham.
Can't get much better than that.
Can't get much better than what we saw with Jarrett Stidham last week against the Niners. Reminder to everybody to hit that subscribe button over there on the MHRT Network page. We are pushing and pushing as the season has been drawing nearer and nearer to 2,000 subscribers on the MHRT Network page. And we also started the Mainly Broncos podcast YouTube channel that you guys can go and subscribe to. And, of course, make sure you follow the boys. Make sure you follow the boys. Make sure you follow Brandon Miller PO. Make sure you follow Jordan Lopez at Jordan T. Lopez. It may take 7 to 10 business days for Brandon to get back to you and hit that follow request, but nonetheless, make sure you follow him. And also follow myself at Cameron Parker PO. Maddie is not here tonight, so make sure you follow him though at Maddie Moles Pod. And to be a bit of a tease, we will be having a guest right after so on the 27th, so that Wednesday, which will be the week after the Broncos' third preseason game, we will have CBS 4 news and sports reporter Justin Adams on the show to talk about the Denver Broncos and everything about this season. So he's a phenomenal human being. He's incredible to talk sports with. So make sure you tune into that episode here in 2 weeks. It'll be a lot of fun. And until next time, go Broncos. And of course,
let's go Broncos. God bless Bo Nix.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what?